Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. How are you today?
Great.
Good. Are you working it? You got any more volunteers? Well, you know, that's part of it. It's party. That's you all party. Do you want me to try to get some of the NWCC youth to come and work with you?
And we're not.
Good evening, how's everyone doing?
Good, how are you today?
All right. Good evening, it's now 6 p.m. I would like to call the Fairfield County School District March the 16th Board of Trustees meeting to order. We have had public notification.
We have.
And I do confirm the quorum. At this time, Chair will entertain a motion to enter executive session for personnel matters.
Attraction to the apartment.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I'd like to make a motion, we enter executive session to, for personnel matters only.
Do we have a second?
A second.
It's been motioned by Ms. Harris, second by Ms. Green, to enter executive session. All in favor indicate by raising of the right hand. We have 6 over. I'm sure. You got it. Correct. All right. We will now enter executive session, but not to exceed 6:30. Thank you. I call him too. Yeah. What's going on? Reverend Jackson, he called. I don't think he is.
Yes, he is.
No. What's going on? Is he going?
Yeah, I'll be right there.
You know? He must be resting there.
They just got here about 4:45.
Oh, he just got on the seat. Oh, okay.
No, no. It should. You know how that went. I know, right? I'm gonna be quicker. Where him? No.
The presentation is at the bottom of that screen, I believe. You see it? I think that should be. That wasn't your presentation? sure you can drive with it, if that's the issue.
Okay.
Is this hold or something?
It used to.
Is it working? Okay. Okay. Dr. Reed has his own cooker?
I am just.
Okay. Brian?
exit executive session, no actions were taken in executive session.
Mr. Chair,
That's one.
I make a motion, we exit executive session.
Chair, sir. Thank you. All in favor? We're exiting executive session. So going to indicate with raising of the right hand. There will be 6 of them. Now, we'd like to welcome everyone to our March 16th board meeting. We thank everyone who supports our school system, our parents, our teachers, our custodians. We thank everyone that's out there. I'm probably missing somebody, bus drivers, administrators. We just want to welcome you to our March 16th board meeting. We will now have a pledge flag and a moment of silence by our board secretary, Ms. Sylvia Harris.
Let us stand for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
moment of silence, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. Chair, we now entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
make a motion, we approve the agenda as presented.
No second.
Second for the motion.
Thank you. There's been a motion by Ms. Shirley Harris and second by Dr. Harris to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor indicate by raising of the right hand. That's 6-0. Next thing is our minutes from our February 19th, that's 16th week, February 16th week. Chair, we entertain a motion to accept a minute, board minute from February 16th week.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion, we accept the superintendent recommendation to approve the minutes from the February 16 regular call board meeting.
Thank you. Chair, I second. There's been motion by Ms. Harris, second by Reverend Jackson. Receive the minutes of the February 16th, 2021 board meeting. All in favor, so by raising of the right hand. That have 6-0. All right, at this time, we will have our superintendent report. Dr. Henry.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, first of all, let me start by saying I would like to thank all of the members of the Fairfield family, to include faculty and staff, students and parents, for continuing to be very flexible and very supportive as we continue to navigate during this very uncertain time. As I continue to say, no one would have ever imagined that we would have been trying to operate schools in the era of a pandemic. And even in the midst of that, I think we have done a tremendous job of providing an outstanding experience for the young people of this community. And that absolutely could not have occurred without the hard work, dedication, and commitment of all the people who are a part of the Fairfield family. So I'd be remiss if I didn't at least start with that. Next, I want to thank Eau Claire Health Cooperative. You remember the last time we spoke and we talked about who would be partnering with the district to deliver vaccinations. I indicated that we had had preliminary conversations with Providence Health. And Providence was more than willing to try and provide those vaccinations to our faculty and staff, but they weren't going to be able to do it until the 1st of April. And I knew that members of the faculty and staff were really anxious to get that done. And so we had a call from some of the leadership at Oak Cliff Health Cooperative, and they indicated that they were more than willing to support us. So I reached back out to them to see whether they were willing to kind of provide us some assistance there. And I'd like to thank all of the members of that organization, to include Dr. Douglas and Dr. Rowe and Ms. Jennifer Glover Hawkins, because they have done a wonderful job of really organizing this effort. And so as a function of their commitment to supporting the faculty and staff of this community, they have made the first shot available to all of the Fairfield County School District staff members this Friday on 3/19. And so I have been encouraging all members of the Fairfield family to take advantage of this opportunity. Now, I know some of them have already received their vaccinations, but for those who have not, our goal is to get as many people vaccinated as possible, because not only does that present a level of safety and security for individuals, I think it mitigates the likelihood that we will see transmission within our facilities. And so it is our goal that as many people who are medically able to take the vaccine on 3/19. And so I sent an email out yesterday encouraging folks who not scheduled their appointments to do it as of yet, to get it done. They have made 3 sites available. So you can get your shot at the Winsboro location, you can get it at the Ridgeway location, or you can get it at the Lake Monticello location. So they are committing all of their locations in Fairfield County to the Fairfield County School District on 3/19. And we are appreciative and grateful, and I want to ensure that we take advantage of that. Any questions about the vaccination before I move on?
Yeah, Dr. Green.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I just want to thank y'all, because actually I probably would have been in the last group to get my shot. And so I do have an appointment for Friday. And Miss Jennifer Hawkins is definitely the one I've been talking to. She actually helped me get some of the older people in the community get signed up for the shot. So I thank you, and I thank everybody that was involved in including us, because I'm like, I'm in the last bunch. I ain't gonna be able to get no shot until later, so I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I tell you, Ms. Jennifer Glover Hawkins, who is one of our parents and always been a great supporter of the district, really went to work immediately and pulled together a team of people to really make this happen. And we are extremely appreciative. Next, I want to talk about what's on the minds of every single senior in Fairfield County, and probably every senior across the country: graduation. And so we're already beginning to get those questions. What will graduation look like for the class of 2021? And so me and Dr. Swilly have been talking, and I am optimistic that we'll be able to have a graduation very similar to what we have had previously. Now, does that mean we're going to fill the stadium as we have in years past? No, I don't see that happening, okay? But I do see us being able to invite a number of guests, and probably likely more guests than we were able to invite last year. I am prayerful, okay? But we'll see where we are by the time we get to graduation relative to transmission and such. But I know seniors are already asking the questions: will there be a graduation? How many guests will I be able to invite? Where will we be? We're likely to be the same place we've been historically, which is on a football field. You will be able to invite guests, I'm pretty sure. How many guests you'll be able to invite, we'll see exactly what the virus will allow. Any questions relative to graduation? Okay, the other question that we've been encountering is, what about prom? You probably read a little bit about that, and so our juniors and seniors have been asking about a prom. There are some districts who are doing a host of different things. Me and Dr. Swilly have been bouncing around the idea of the outdoor prom that may be located on the football field, where students can effectively social distance. It wouldn't necessarily be the same as a traditional prom, but there are some schools who are exploring that opportunity. So me and Dr. Switter continue to be in conversation. She is very much so interested in trying to provide some kind of experience to the young people who will be graduating this year, particularly since they didn't, for those seniors who didn't have a prom last year. So I can tell you, we are working on that. That has not been determined as of yet, but we are trying to put together a plan in that regard. And then finally, before I get to our COVID update, we've had lots of buzz relative to what we are proposing to be a new virtual academy in Fairfield County. We've had lots of young people who have enjoyed virtual learning during the course of this year. We anticipated that there will be some families, either because they're still uncomfortable with COVID-19 on next year, or because they have enjoyed the flexibility that virtual learning provided them this year, that we'll want to continue in a remote learning environment post-COVID-19. And so we have been working on putting together a plan that really accommodates all of those families. And so Dr. Avery is going to present to you today exactly where we are relative to that plan. We've already asked parents who are interested in participating to submit applications, because as a part of us planning, we need to know how many students we're talking about. All right, and so we have asked them to have those applications be into us by next Friday, I think it is. And so the applications went live last week. They'll be due in 2 weeks, which is next Friday. And then we have a little bit better idea of exactly how many students that we are going to have to accommodate. But I think it is inevitable that there will be a population of students who have enjoyed virtual learning. And as I have said to Mr. Miller and Pastor Jackson during our board agenda setting meeting, either we figure out a way to accommodate those students or they're gonna go someplace else, okay? Because if you want to continue with virtual learning because either you're fearful of the virus, either you feel it just suits you and you're working in it in a very effective manner, then you are going to receive it. And I think we are positioned to present to you a very effective program. And we will get lots of conversation about the virtual academy once Dr. Avery presents that information to us. But we're very excited. We've got lots of questions. I'm having a town hall meeting on the 23rd, which I think is next week. And you know, I'll address lots of issues during the town hall meeting. But the primary reason that we scheduled it is because I know we're going to get lots of questions about virtual academy on next year. But you know, not to go into any further detail about it, but the virtual academy is very similar to what it is this year, except it's not necessarily being managed by an individual. It's not being managed by each individual school, but it'll be more centrally managed. So in other words, right now, you have virtual learning going on in every school. The high school is managing theirs, Giga is managing theirs, Mag is managing theirs. It will be more centrally managed moving forward. You know, we're going to be asking parents to make a greater commitment. So I'm very interested to see how many families are going to be interested in pursuing virtual learning on next year. When you consider that we will probably be pretty close to a traditional operating environment on next year. So I've had lots of conversations. What do you expect schools to look like next year? Well, I think they're going to look pretty close to what they looked like a couple of years ago, with the exception that we'll probably still be wearing masks if I had to bet money on it, okay? But with the exception of that, I think most students will be returning on next year in a very somewhat traditional model. Any questions before I go to the COVID update? The 23rd, the 23rd. 6 o'clock.
Green, how are we getting the word out? You know, I know, most every time we do something like that, we have parents come later and say, well, I didn't know anything about it, you know. So they want to catch it, you know, the next semester. They want to get in this time. How are we What are we doing?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Mr. Miller. Dr. Ava and her team came over with, I mean, a very, very good plan. And so they're attacking it from multiple fronts. So they sent a letter detailing the virtual academy to every student, a physical hard copy letter, went to every household. Additionally, they sent a message to Parent Square that had all the information relative to the virtual academy. We put it on our website. I did a video, and I'm not sure all the different ways they sent that video out of me, and I know they probably sent it through Parent Square. So we've been attacking it from multiple different perspectives, Mr. Miller. If a parent says, "I've not heard anything about this virtual option," you must be hiding from it, because we're looking for you. We're trying to get that word to you every way we can. All right. And so when they come and tell you, "Superintendent, I didn't hear this. I want to know where you been." All right, and because we try every way we can to really share this information for those of you who are interested. So I think we have a very comprehensive plan, as exhibited by some of you who got some calls saying that I want to ask you about the virtual academy. So I think we're doing a pretty good job, Mr. Miller. We're going to continue to work on it. I'm hoping this town hall meeting is going to kind of be the final step of that process. Where you not only get the word about it, but you get to engage and ask some more specific questions and engage in some dialogue relative to the virtual academy as well. Any other questions before we go to the COVID update? Well, we're going to talk a lot more about the virtual academy, and like I said, Dr. Eve and her team have been working on this for the last several weeks. They have done an absolutely wonderful job of working through that whole process. So we'll be presenting what we think is an exciting opportunity. COVID-19, I tell you, we were trucking along so very well. I get updates daily on our COVID numbers, student and staff numbers. And so the SAL comes and she gives me a brief update how many cases we had, where those cases were. And I was feeling good because most days the SAL would come to my office, I'd go to her office. She said, "Well, Superintendent, we all had one case or no case or one." It was just going good. And then last week happened. And then we went from 1 or 2 cases, and then all of a sudden hit a spike. And so we said, why did the spike come last week? I have absolutely no idea. Okay, I have no idea. Normally, we can kind of tie spikes to vacation when students are out of school, sometimes events. But in this particular situation, I'm not necessarily sure why the spike occurred, but we'll talk a little bit about what the spike actually represented. Ms. Brown, here's the next slide. So here you see we continue to just keep a running tally of all the students who have come in contact with the virus and all the staff who come in contact with the virus. It's important to remind you, as I continue to remind you every time I do this, it doesn't mean they're coming in contact with the virus in our system. So in other words, you could be a virtual student, but we still have you listed here. You could have come in contact with the virus at church, at a family reunion, anywhere. But if you're a student, then we have to list you on this report. Next slide. You see weekly assessment, January 18th through the 22nd, which I think is that's probably around our last school board meeting. February, no, that's month before. February 1st through the 5th, you see we had 3 cases. 15th through the 19th, 0 cases. 22nd through the 24th, 1 cases. And then the week of March through the 1st through the 5th, 9 cases. You said, man, what happened there? And I wish I knew. But I'll tell you, looking at our numbers this week, we're going right back down to where we were previously. So why we had to kind of flip on the radar, not 100% showing. Next slide, Brown. And that just kind of shows you, gives you a chart of where we have been all year long. You clearly see where the week of March 1st through the 5th, we had that uptick where we went from 0 cases up to 9 cases in a week. Okay. Staff cases, basically the same thing. We went from 3 cases January 18th through the 22nd, 2 cases February 1st through the 5th, 1 case February 15th to the 19th, and then boom, 7 cases March 1st through the 5th. So the same kind of uptick during that particular week. And once again, we constantly monitor that. Not sure why that occurred. We did find that there were several connections to those particular cases. So in other words, we had, in the student cases, we had some families, we had 3 or 4 students who tested positive. In some staff cases, you had some education communities, so my education communities I'm talking about, we had some grade levels and assistants who may have both come into contact with the virus. Next slide is Brown. Okay. And that just shows you a bar graph, similar to what we saw with student cases, where things were trucking along great. We had one case the week prior, and then the week of March 1st through the 5th, all of a sudden we had this spike of the 7 cases. But most of those individuals have returned to work at this point in time and are doing relatively well. And, before we field any questions, we continue to monitor COVID-19. I feel confident as we continue to get more and more people vaccinated, that we'll see less instances where we have these kinds of spikes, where we have to end up quarantining and having people to stay home because they're coming in contact with the virus. So that's why I think it is vitally important that we continue to get all our staff vaccinated. Now, the question is, well, what about students? And because right now, the virus is not approved for young people under the age of 16. I'm optimistic that they are working on that. Matter of fact, I was watching a story recently where they're doing some trials with students under 16. So I think that is due to be rolled out very soon. And then the other question that we're going to have to grapple with as a district is, well, are we going to promote the vaccine for our young people who are 16 or older? Because, there's a population, particularly at high school, of students who are 16 or older who could get the vaccine when it is ultimately available. All right. And so that's something we've not necessarily had lots of conversation about, but it is going to happen eventually once we get through the more senior individuals, and then we start adding these younger students to the approved list who can receive the vaccination. All right. Any questions?
Mr. Chair. Dr. Green.
Yes, ma'am.
For the staff, when they're out, do they have to use their days, or how does that work?
Yeah, so when the staff is out, Ms. Harrison, if it's anywhere associated or potentially associated with the Fairfield County School District, we cover the day. So in other words, if you're out because you came in contact with the virus or you had to quarantine with somebody, then we cover the day. Now, if you come to us and said, well, my husband was around somebody at work, and then so he tested positive, and so I'm a close contact on my husband, so now I'm gonna have to stay home to quarantine, then obviously that's not associated with the Fairfield County School District. But anything that could be associated with the district, we're covering the days. Things that aren't necessary or can't possibly be tied to the district, and those are things that we have not been covering.
My question is, if students contract with the virus and they're at home, now if they are exposed to somebody, that's one way that they have to stay home. But if they actually have the virus, they have to stay home. In either case, are they being on virtual?
So let me understand your question. So for any student, so for any student who has to quarantine because they are positive or because they were a close contact transition if they were previously in person from in-person to virtual.
Right.
And I'll go a step further, Pastor Jackson. We have been utilizing this virtual option to accommodate any student that needs to stay home. So in other words, even outside of COVID-19, you sprain your ankle at soccer practice. And so you can't walk on it, you need to be virtual. Then we let you transition from in-person to virtual. I give you a personal example. I had to take my daughter to the doctor on yesterday. And so she had I can't remember what time the appointment was, maybe 11 o'clock appointment. But for her first class, in lieu of trying to go to school and then leave school, she did her first class virtual. And then I picked up from home, and then I took on to a doctor's appointment. So, this has really given us a whole lot of flexibility where students who previously needed to be out for a host of different reasons and had a misinstruction, now can still continue to participate in instruction because of this virtual option. So it's not just for students who are out because of COVID-19, any student who needs to be out, we have been leveraging this virtual option to maintain instruction. This will chair. All right, so the next thing on the agenda, Jewel litigation. Let me tell you a little bit about this. You probably have heard that there is a class action lawsuit relative to the electronic cigarette maker Jewel. Someone reached out to me asking, did we want to join the class action lawsuit? And quite honestly, they have been recruiting school districts to participate in this lawsuit. Ultimately, the position is that these electronic cigarette makers have been marketing to young people. And as a result, that has caused not only a health crisis, but it also caused schools to really deal with kinds of issues that they otherwise would not have been dealing with, and we've not seen an uptick in the number of young people who are engaging in this activity. And so there is this class action lawsuit. They have presented it to us. The school board can decide whether you want to join in on this kind of this class action suit that deals with this vaping epidemic, as they say, in the event that a settlement is reached or there is a finding on behalf of the defendants. Then I assume that we will receive some of the proceeds from that litigation. At this time, it doesn't appear as if there is any financial investment asked of the district if we decide to sign on. But if you did, we would definitely get clarification relative to that. So let's try to go through the slides. Vapor litigation support proposal for Fairfield School District. Next slide, Brown. And I won't necessarily read to you guys, but you just see the vaping epidemic in America. This lawsuit is not just about South Carolina, all right? And so this lawsuit involves many different states because this vaping epidemic is something that has been occurring across the entire country. Next slide, Ms. Brown. Okay. Looking about the adverse health effects of vaping, and I think for some young people, they feel as if this is better than smoking. Because it's vape but not smoke. But as I understand it, it has sometimes even more significant health consequences than even smoking. As you see, it has five times higher nicotine delivery than cigarettes per puff per University of California, San Francisco State. Okay, cigarettes to Juul, and as you see, one Juul pod can equal 20 to 40 cigarettes. So that's pretty substantial. The history of Juul, Paxilab launched Juul in 2015. You see their sales increased by 700% from 2015 to 2016. That's pretty substantial. Juul's revenues jumped up $200 million by 2017. By 2018, their revenues reached $1 billion. By 2019, it rose to $3.4 billion. And in 2020, Juul announced its relocation to Washington, D.C. And remember, there was a Juul plant that was scheduled to open up in Lexington, really prior to all of this controversy around electronic cigarettes. But they since have pulled out, and I don't think they're going to be located in Lexington now. Next slide. Vaping growth, Juul's gained significant traction after being introduced to the market in 2015. Correspondingly, a spike in vaping occurred, especially among teens and young adults. Previously, according to the CDC, teens and young adults have been using fewer tobacco products than in previous decades. So there had been a drop in terms of young people smoking, but all of a sudden, when vaping was introduced, as you see the graph, then all of a sudden, the number of young people who are engaging in this activity started to increase. once again, just looking at the number of people who were vaping in 2021 relative who were vaping in 2011. Substantial increase. Middle and high school vaping, it just shows you that across all grade levels, we're starting to see more and more young people engage in this kind of activity. And this is part of the concern is how significant or targeted are these ads towards young people. And the argument that the class action suit makes is that it has been laser focused on trying to attract young people to the market. Jews ads appeared on Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon. I'm not quite sure who you would be marketing to on Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network. It is not young people. Educational sites for middle school and high school students, websites for young girls like 17 magazine. Okay. Next slide, Ms. Brown. And so this slide really talks about the legal team. The legal team includes some local South Carolina attorneys. I suspect it includes attorneys from all of the states where you have schools who are participating in the class action lawsuit. But there are some attorneys out of state as well who make up this legal team. Next slide. And just some individuals who are participating on this legal team. So, let's go back on one slide. So next steps for Fairfield County, if we decide to move forward, they said a contingency fee. We need to verify exactly what that is. He didn't mention that to me, but we need to see exactly what that amounts to. Cost advanced by counsel. So they're basically saying there may be a contingency fee, but part of that cost would be advanced by the counsel. Minimal investment of time from the plaintiff. High likelihood of substantial recovery, and then finally hire counsel and file a lawsuit promptly so as to assume leadership role. And so if the district decided to move forward, we would have to notify them. So officially, we've become a part of the class action suit. And in essence, we hired a legal team to not only represent all the other plaintiffs, but to represent us as well. Okay. All right. What's the next slide, Ms. Brown? Okay, that's it. Any questions about the Jewel lawsuit? Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, my question isn't in regards to the litigation of the process, but is there anything, or what age are we starting to introduce the hazards of using the vapes to our children?
So you said at what age, I guess?
Yeah, like you were saying that they have an ad at Cartoon Network.
Yeah.
Are we using, or are we going to start addressing the concern in the elementary school to tell the children the information necessary to stay away from it? Make better choices?
So that's good. I mean, I think primarily we begin to have the dialogue with young people relative to smoking and tobacco products at the middle school level. We've not historically had a lot of young people who have been engaging in cigarette use in 4th or 5th grade. So historically that has been the case. Obviously, if we begin to see a trend where we are seeing greater numbers of young people at that age begin to engage in cigarette use, then that would change us, that would cause us to really change our strategy. I'll tell you in Fairfield County, that's not something we're seeing. So as you think about some of the data they're presenting, that's some national data, but that's not necessarily what we may be seeing here in our district. So we aren't seeing an uptick in elementary age students using cigarettes in this district or nicotine products. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I just wanted them to be introduced.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, Dr. Green, I think, me and Mr. Miller, I think we was in Philadelphia about 3 years ago, you know, COVID got all the gears mixed up. But that was one of the sessions that I did take, and they were very concerned about the vaping being on the rise, and then I look at the numbers, how it had risen since, you know, 3 years ago, and that was really one of the concerns, and they wanted districts to get on board with it then, but do you know any surrounding districts that may have, you been in conversation with, may have?
Yeah, so in the Midlands, Ms. Harrison, the only one that I have confirmed is in Lexington 1, in terms of Midlands districts who have, and I'm not saying there are others, but that's just a conversation I had with the Lexington 1 superintendent. There could be others. The attorney who I spoke to indicated that there are several throughout the state. He didn't give me a list of who they were, but he indicated that there were several in the state. And if that's more information that you'd like relative to who else has already signed on in South Carolina, I can surely get that information for you.
Yeah, it is, I mean, it's cause to be concerned, and it's really on the rise.
Okay.
Kevin, Dr. Green, what does our attorney have to say about us joining this lawsuit?
Yeah, so I've not presented it to our attorney as of yet, Mr. Siegel. I want to present the information to you as a board, and then get your thoughts on it. If you want to proceed, or you want me to speak to our attorneys about potentially proceeding, then I will set that up and get some feedback. But I've not asked our attorney about his or her recommendation relative to moving forward with this.
Second question, I know you mentioned something about a contingency fee, and you say you didn't know the amount.
Yeah.
Is there any type of range of how high that fee can go?
And so, see, it was a nominal amount, okay, so it wasn't a big amount, and as I understand it, they would be willing to even pay the amount, okay, and so there was a contingency fee, but before you made the decision to move forward, I'd be more than happy to get that information.
Dr. Green, I think that we need to pursue this, at least get all the information, because these big companies like that, they take advantage of our babies. You know, I mean, maybe young folks, but they take advantage of our babies. And I'm definitely want to find out more and how can we pursue this. But I want to hear from the whole board. I'm just one member, but y'all can give Dr. Green a direction which way we want to go with this.
I mean, I agree, you know, with getting more information, and then we'll know how to go forward. That's my opinion.
Okay. So it sounds like the two pieces of information that we want, it could be more. We want to know what our attorneys think about moving forward with the litigation. We want to get information relative to what is the contingency fee, the exact amount of the contingency fee. What other information would you like me to secure? Okay. All right, so I will bring that back to the board at our April meeting, and then you can decide how you want to proceed at that time.
One final question.
Yeah.
In cases like this, if you join a lawsuit like this, there's a whole lot for you to do except say, yeah, I'm part of this. Or is there some groundwork we got to do?
So that's my understanding, Pastor Jackson, and that's probably one thing that I'll be asking is, will you be tied up to staff to run around and how much time will the staff have to pull together the information? Yeah, so, but my understanding is that once we sign on, it'll be limited, required of us moving forward.
One question that might be out of left field, but it's kind of related. With cigarettes, I know that sometimes you know that when you come in contact with cigarettes, you can smell it, and you know that there's a possibility that that there can be some, if you're a person like me, I've got asthma, for example. And I don't want to be around stuff like that. Isn't the vaping, is it the same way? You're in contact with it?
So the thing about this vaping, Pastor Jackson, is that, and that's why the young people, and I guess maybe some older adults like it as well, you can get so many different flavors, and so it just varies. So it's not necessarily the same as kind of cigarettes that may have more of a common kind of a smell, because there's so many different flavors of vape. Okay, so I think that is the big difference here, that you can get kind of fruity flavors, and all kinds of flavors on these vapes. And I suspect there are multiple kinds of smells, the same way there are multiple kinds of flavors as well.
Okay, I know that I've seen, just today, for example, I was going in the post office, and the lady was coming down the street walking, and there was this cloud over it. One cloud, thing like it was a cigar or something. Looked like a locomotive going down there. I waited till she went to the post office before I went in there.
Yeah, but that's one thing that you observe with vaping is it produces a lot more smoke than
Yes.
traditional cigarettes.
That's,
It produces a lot more smoke. I'm not necessarily sure about the health consequences, you know, all the additional smoke, but it sounds as if it produces even more significant health consequences.
I would think so. I mean, you don't see that with a cigarette.
All right, Mr. Chair, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Green. At this time, we have a group and instruction.
Good evening.
good evening.
Item 1 under curriculum and instruction is the final reading for the 2020-21, 2020-22 proposed academic calendar for your approval. And the calendar was presented to you for first reading last month. And as a result of the feedback that we received from the stakeholder survey, we received over 100 responses to the survey that was available to our staff, along with our parents, and even some of our students to submit their feedback. As a result of that, there were no changes made to the calendar from the first reading to now the second reading that is presented to you tonight for your approval.
Chair, we entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion, we approve the 2021, 2022, academic calendar.
Second for the motion. Thank you. It's been motion by Mr. Harris, second by Dr. Harris, to, for the 21-22 proposed academic calendar. All in favor, by raising the right hand. Thank you.
The second item tonight consists of an overview of the virtual academy, which will launch in exactly 154 days. And the reason why I decided to kind of share with you the 154 days is because we have a lot of work to do. And tonight is just an opportunity for you to see the framework that we have developed to launch our virtual academy on August the 17th, 2021. Now, our why. Several of our parents have inquired, whether or not we plan to offer a virtual option for the upcoming school year. And as a result of the feedback that we received from families, parents, and students, we felt it was important to expand our choice options for our families to include a virtual option. So next school year, our families will have an opportunity to apply for a virtual academy. Secondly, we also felt that with the pandemic, many families may still feel uncomfortable sending their child to school. And so we wanted again to have this opportunity for them to continue to receive a quality education by using the resources that we have here in the district to provide a virtual learning option. And then lastly, we also recognize that we are very blessed here in Fairfield County School District, that our students have had almost 8 years of leveraging Google Chromebooks, having the opportunity to learn virtually in the classroom. And so we felt at this point, this was the right time, despite this pandemic, to still remain innovative and to provide this as an opportunity for our families. Program specifics. We will launch this virtual option, as I stated earlier, in August of this year for our students in grades kindergarten to 12th grade. Gordon Odyssey, as Dr. Bean mentioned earlier, will serve as the virtual hub for the virtual academy. Students enrolled in the virtual academy will receive live instruction from a certified Fairfield County School District teacher via Google Meet or Zoom. And all learning opportunities will occur remotely and will include both live and recorded instructional sessions. Now, the students who are virtual academy students will remain assigned to their home school. And the virtual academy is a program and not a standalone school. So when students take standardized assessments like SC Ready, EOC, things of that nature, those results will be reflected in all of the results that the teachers or that the schools receive from the state that represent both face-to-face students and those students who are attending virtually. Students who participate will participate in core content and elective courses virtually, and those students who are enrolled in classes at Fairfield Career and Technology Center must attend classes in person. And some course offerings for our virtual academy students will be provided through our partnership with Edgenuity, which is our content recovery software, along with our partnerships with Midlands Technical College and or Winthrop University. Now, Dr. Green shared earlier, our application process launched on this past Friday. And we had, in 2 hours, I checked, we had 22 families who decided to apply. And today, when I checked, we have a total of 56 applications that have already been submitted for our virtual academy. And we ask that parents submit their applications via Parent Square no later than 11:59 p.m. on March the 26th. But if they would like to submit a paper copy, we ask that it's submitted to either the district office or any of our schools no later than 4 o'clock on March the 26th. And again, as Dr. Green mentioned earlier in his report, we also sent the application along with a cover letter to every single student in our school district. Student eligibility considerations. The operating in a total virtual environment is quite different. And we want our families and our parents to really have a very open and honest dialogue with their child about whether or not this virtual program is an appropriate choice. And the learning in a virtual environment requires a commitment from both the parent and the student, but especially the parent, to support their child throughout this academic journey. Now, students who enjoy face-to-face interactions, immediate interactions, may not see the virtual option as a good fit. And that's where the parent who knows their child will recognize immediately whether or not the virtual academy is a good fit for them, or whether or not they choose to remain in the traditional face-to-face 5-day environment. Students, as I mentioned earlier, enrolled in classes at Fairfield Career Technology Center must also attend classes in person. Now, eligibility requirements for our students consist of the following. For elementary and middle school students, we encourage the ideal candidates are students that have no failing grades, must be on track to be promoted to the next grade, and must have reliable internet and consistent internet service in their respective home. High school students also must have the internet access as well, but must have maintained at least a 2.0 or higher GPA, must have no failing grades for the current academic school year, and must be on track to graduate on time. And while we recognize that, in Fairfield County, the infrastructure as it relates to the technology may be somewhat limited, but in order for students to fully take advantage of the virtual academy opportunity and fully experience it, it's best for students to have hardwired internet within their home. Now, here's some characteristics of a successful virtual student. And as you read over these, I want you to think about someone that you know, whether it's your grandchild, a niece, or a nephew. Do they possess these characteristics to be a successful virtual student? Are they self-motivated? Are they the kind of student who will get up early in the morning, log on anytime, anywhere, and can work, basically not being able to have to be directed by the classroom teacher? The independent learner can learn at their own pace, and they are willing to work, as I said, 24/7 if need be to complete an assignment. Computer literate. This student should have working knowledge of how to use Gmail, how to use the internet, how to access the Google Chromebook, and again, must have reliable, consistent access to the internet. They also should have good time management skills. They should plan the best time to learn. And that is the best time for them. That may not necessarily be the exact time that their classmates learn. And then also, an ideal virtual student should be an effective communicator. They should also be able to share their needs, their immediate needs, any issues that they're having, and be able to write clearly and effectively to their classmates and communicate any issues to their classroom teacher. And again, going back to what I said earlier, the personal commitment. The one thing about the virtual classroom or in the virtual environment, there are no bells. There are no time, there's no bells that will indicate to a student when to log on. And so they must have the personal commitment to determine that it's 9 o'clock, it's time for me to log in without necessarily a parent telling them, get out of bed, get up, log in at 9 o'clock for the academics to begin on that day. The academic readiness should be another characteristic that parents should consider. The student should have the basic reading, writing, math, and computer literacy skill as appropriate for their grade level to ensure that they can be successful. And lastly, technologically prepared. They need to feel very comfortable in utilizing all aspects of all the technology using a variety of file formats to make sure that they can access the lesson for today or for that specific day. Now, we ask parents and students to honor us with a commitment. And the commitment for the virtual academy, if accepted into the virtual academy, the child will be required to participate as a virtual student for at least 1 semester. After a semester, the family can elect to return to the child's home school for face-to-face instruction. Because as Dr. Green said earlier, once we determine how many students who will be a part of the virtual academy, we use those numbers to determine staffing and personnel. And so we want to make sure that our parents know upfront that it's our expectation that students remain in the virtual academy for a semester and that they commit to at least being in the virtual academy for at least 1 semester. And as I said earlier, students will have access to a Google Chromebook that is provided by the district. Assignments will be posted in Google Classroom. And then we encourage students to be an active participant in the virtual environment to have hardwired, reliable, consistent internet access in their respective homes. Now, academic standing. As once students have been enrolled into the program, students must successfully pass their core content courses with a C or better and attend class daily. Academic progress will be reviewed on a consistent basis, and the student's academic progress will be reviewed at the interim and report card grading period. If the student fails to meet the satisfactory academic progress, they will be placed on academic probation. If the student is making satisfactory academic progress while on academic probation, they may continue in the program and will no longer be on academic probation. If the student fails to meet satisfactory academic progress while on academic probation, they will be removed from the virtual program and will return to face-to-face instruction at his or her respective school. Extracurricular activities. Virtual Academy students will be able to participate in their homeschool athletic and extracurricular activities. However, parents will be responsible for providing transportation to the homeschool for any athletic and/or extracurricular activity. As we have done this year, meals will be provided, and 5 breakfast and lunch meals will be available for curbside pickup on Monday afternoons for our families from 3 to 5 p.m. to the closest, from the school closest to their residence. So they don't necessarily have to go to their home school, but they can go to any school to pick up a meal or meals for the week that is closest to their home. And those requests, as they're done now, are submitted through Parent Square at least 1 week prior to pickup. Now, with this virtual academy program, attendance does matter, and the attendance will be taken daily by the classroom teacher, and students are expected to log in daily for their core and elective classes and actively participate in all classroom activities, assignments, and discussion. And with the virtual environment, we do recognize that there will be some level of flexibility. However, attendance will be determined by whether or not a student submits work and they participate actively in assignments assigned by the teacher. They submit work on a timely basis as determined by the teacher and participate as instructed. It's important to ensure that our students are maintaining their academic progress as students in the virtual academy. Now, students enrolled in the academic calendar, in the virtual academy, will follow the same academic calendar just approved by you all previously. And the virtual students will observe the same holiday breaks as the face-to-face students. Testing, students will be required to participate in all district and state level formative and state summative assessments, and students will be required to report to their home school to take all of their required assessments. Transportation, if requested, will be provided for all students. And lastly, with the personnel, we anticipate that the virtual academy will be staffed by 1 certified staff member, 1 certified administrator, 1 school counselor, and the certified teachers. And teachers will teach from their classroom at their assigned schoolwork location, and administrative and support staff will be housed at GOA. We anticipate advertising for the virtual academy teachers by May 1st, 2021, and interested applicants will be able to submit an application on our district website using AppleTrack. So what happens next? Dr. Green will be hosting a town hall meeting on next week, March the 23rd at 6:00 p.m. All virtual academy applications are due on March the 26th by 4 p.m. for paper applications and online by 11:59 p.m. on March the 26th. And then the applications will be reviewed by the district, and parents will be notified by email via Parent Square the status of their application by Monday, April the 19th. Parents will accept or decline their child's invitation for the virtual academy with the understanding that a change of program can only be made at the end of the semester unless the student has failed to maintain the C or above in their core academic classes. The district is considering an additional compensation for teachers who teach virtually and face-to-face at the same time. However, that will be contingent upon the number of students that we have, that parents who actually accept the invitation to be a part of our virtual academy. And the district is finalizing a compensation structure that will be shared at the next board meeting. Now, your point of contact are myself. If you get any questions or if you have questions from your constituents, feel free to direct them to myself Dr. Jennifer Etheridge, or Dr. Lanisha Tyndall. And now the floor is open for any questions.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, so you said it's gonna be, virtual hub at the, Garden Artistry. That's where it's gonna be, the virtual academy gonna be held. So none of the schools are gonna have their different ones, right? So it's just gonna be there. So what about the kids that's, in GOA, Dr. Green?
Yeah, so the behavior mod program will still exist.
Okay,
So when we say a virtual hub, it's important to recognize that virtual students aren't actually fit.
yeah, I know that, yeah.
Dr. Tyndall is just the person who's managing the virtual program. As I said, right now, each individual school manages all of their virtual students. So the Maggie manages there, Deegan manages there, high school manages there. The difference is, in this new model that we're creating, Dr. Tyndall and Going Out of the Academy really manages all of them.
Okay.
But then there's, they're located there. We will still have the behavior mod at Going Out of the Academy.
So, I truly think it's a good idea. It'll definitely get them high school kids prepared for college, because actually everything they gotta do on there, they gotta do it in college. They gotta get their own stuff up, they got to have time management. And I know some parents, were still concerned about whether they wanted the child to go back or whether they want virtual. So it's an excellent idea, and, I commend y'all for coming up with it and putting it together, because a lot of them still kind of on the fence about it. Nobody knows, but I guess once everybody start getting vaccinated, they'll feel more comfortable about it. And I really hope that a lot of them do understand they gotta stay there the whole semester, because sometimes they get in and then they decide after a couple of weeks, hey, I don't want to be in here no more, or my child want to do something different, and so it kind of put everybody in a bad mind. But you knew you had to do this, so you gotta stay there, because I know some school districts, they gotta stay the whole year. They actually had to sign a letter saying you're gonna stay the whole year, because my grandson is one, but he's doing it this year, and he's actually doing well with it, but he decided to go back next year. But if he had decided to stay, he had to stay in it the whole year, not one semester. So y'all are giving them an option, after one semester, they can go back. So I do hope the parents really understand that after that, you do a semester, then you can go back. So, great idea. So, I know it's gonna work well. Most kids that stayed on virtual now probably are doing pretty good. A lot of them I talked to are doing really good with virtual.
And Ms. Harrison, just respond to your point. The good thing about where we are right now is most people have had a year's experience working on. And so if you didn't do well this year, then you want a good candidate to move forward virtually next year.
Right.
All right. And so there's a lot of people who have done well, like you said, your grandson, he has done well, but he's elected to go back to the in-person model. If you struggle this year, it doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense for us to say, well, I want to move forward. Right. So this is a good test run for most people throughout the district to determine rather than to get from you.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, listen.
Please turn on your mic.
My question is, you said currently you have 54 applications. What is the minimum number of enrollees to dictate or determine the success of having a virtual program? Because this is going to cover K through 12th grade. So what is the bare minimum that you're looking for in order to be effective and efficient in offering this program?
I'll be happy to talk about that. So Dr. has a very good question. And so the way Dr. Avery and her team have developed is create maximum flexibility. We can have a teacher who is dedicated to teaching exclusively virtual for a particular grade. So in other words, let's say you had 20 second grade kids, we could theoretically have a second grade teacher who's assigned to teach all virtual students, and that's all he or she did for also begin to explore with teachers your willingness to teach on a dual modality when you're teaching some in person and virtual. So let's use that same second grade example. We only had two second grade students who were virtual. We have identified teachers and hopefully we'll be able to pinpoint who would say, I'm willing to pick up 2 additional virtual students in addition to my face-to-face students. Therefore, we don't have to go to that parent or those parents and say, we only have 2 second grade students, we don't have enough to offer it. We have a mechanism where we can still provide instruction without dedicating a specific teacher to a particular grade. So with that said, because there's such flexibility there, Dr. Harris, I don't think there is a floor that we have to meet. Rather, it was 50. So because we only have a total of 50 students, because of how it's structured, I still think we can provide a very robust experience at a very cost-effective manner. Does anyone want to add to that, Dr. Amy?
Yeah, I do.
I wanted to piggyback on something that was alluded to earlier, about the fact that once they choose the avenue of virtual, that is understood that it must be for at least 1 semester. But we also said that, unless I misunderstood it, that if they're not doing well, that they be placed on academic probation, and if they don't do well after that, they will be taken out. And it's my understanding that you're not gonna wait till the semester's over to take them out.
So Dr. You kind of talk about the academic probation and the time sequence, if you will.
Okay. So, so Reverend Jackson, what we're thinking is that, let's say, for example, the interim is usually at 4 weeks. Okay, so there are 9 weeks in a grading period. So Dr. Tinder will likely sit down, review, likely probably every week, even before we get to the interim, to identify those students who are already, she may see, are struggling in the virtual environment. So that those students are clearly identified up front from day one. So everyone, the parent, the child knows that someone is keeping track of how they're doing academically and whether or not they're coming to virtual school every single day. And so what we envision is that at the interim report time, there will be a parent conference that will be held. And if we see that the child is not doing well after 4 weeks, then we will sit down with the parent and say, and the child say, look, based on what we observed, we've had 4 weeks, we've provided additional support, additional intervention, and still yet, Carl is still not doing well in the virtual academy. We feel at this point that it may be best that your child go back to face-to-face instruction. We feel as if it would not be to the child's benefit at 4 weeks if the child is not doing well, meaning they're to have D's and F's, for them to remain in the virtual environment. So the best opportunity for that child to be successful could be to return at the 4 weeks back to their home school for face-to-face instruction. Now, that could have, in fact, depended upon the needs of the individual child. So even at the 4 weeks, the parent may say, you know what, I want to give Carl another chance. Can we wait until report card? Then we'll come back to the drawing board, give the child additional support, and then again, make a decision after report cards go out, whether or not the child will return. So we may not wait until the semester. It may have to happen before then, depending upon exactly where each individual child is.
Okay, my reason for asking that or for pointing that out is that if there is some kind of hardship or something that develops and it's no longer advantageous for them to have their children in a virtual setting, having gone in at the outset, they don't have a way to get out. But now, if you put out the child is on academic probation, then this one with the emergency may want to call your hand on it.
And that could definitely happen. But I think that in this virtual environment, two things have to happen. We gotta have consistent parent involvement. We gotta have consistent parent communication, and the student has to do their part. Along with we as the district, as Dr. Tindall, as the person who's supervising this program, we're all gonna have to do our part. And the family, if in fact a hardship does come up, I'm hopeful that the parent and Dr. Tindall and whoever will sit down together to figure out and let them know up front that we're having a family hardship, and work with that family. Because again, this is a choice. And oftentimes, even as adults, we make the choice based on the circumstances that we know right now.
Right.
Things could occur down the line that we just have to make a choice based on what our family situations are right now. And I'm hopeful that this virtual opportunity will be flexible, but then on the other side of it, we don't want to be too flexible when we have the door kind of swinging open all the time and teachers are constantly getting students in and out. But I think it's important that we offer the flexibility and then give the opportunity for families to come to us and say, this is what's happening. First, let's see, can we support? But then if we still can't support and provide the level of support they need to be successful, then we find the most ideal environment for the students.
All right, the flexibility, I think is what I was alluding to.
So Pastor, let me add to that. And so generally speaking, as Dr. Avery said, a student potentially could be on probation out for 4.5 weeks. And maybe we come to the conclusion that he is in dire need of some kind of intervention that can't be provided in the virtual environment and start to make a change. We can let it go for the time. Now we can go for the change. With all that said, we're speaking in general terms, all right? There will always be exceptions to any kind of policy that is put in place. But we do want individuals to know going in that we want you to make a commitment. Now, there will potentially be exceptions, but we can't design a program, as the parents were saying, where her grandson had committed for a year. You can't come in after 2 weeks, and you know what, I said I want to do it, and I'm going to take it out. You know, and so there may be extenuating circumstances that we want to accommodate, but we still got to establish an expectation before you sign up that this is the expectation that you commit for a semester. And if you are willing to commit for a semester, my advice to you is go to traditional tech. Okay, go to traditional tech. So, not that we're saying that there won't be exceptions and we won't try to accommodate, because there always can be exceptions. We always try to look at it on a case-by-case basis. But I'm telling parents going in, this is the expectation. Unless there's some kind of extenuating situation, we want you to live up to your one semester.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Avery, in your presentation, you stated that students will have to come in to their home school for testing, like benchmark testing, state standardized testing. I know with the older kids, that might be all right, but how would that affect kindergarten, first graders who are not accustomed to being in that setting, and they're not accustomed to that teacher who is administering the test? Because if I keep you home, you're probably gonna be kind of clingy and not wanna be out in the public, especially for something as important as a benchmark test or a standardized test. Maybe you're not gonna perform because you're not accustomed to being in that environment.
So Mr. Stevens, what I will say to that is that we're going to work very diligently to ensure that the students feel comfortable in whatever environment that they are taking the test in. We do anticipate, we are planning possibly for some of our teachers to actually be assigned to Gordon Odyssey Academy, where they can teach from there. And so kids who are in Ms. Green's class, if she's assigned to Gordon Odyssey, then they should be able to go to Gordon Odyssey, sit in the same class with Ms. Green, and take their assessments. And so that's definitely something, Mr. Siebels, that we hadn't thought about. So I thank you for bringing that up, that we can definitely make sure when we do the planning for the scheduling of the assessments, that we can make sure that the environment that they test in, they're going to be comfortable with whoever is in that room, and then try to make sure that it's their assigned virtual academy teacher.
And let me just add a little something to that too, Mr. Cecil. So parents and students have grown accustomed to that, because that's what we're doing this year. If the state follows through and mandates that schools administer state assessments, students will have to come in and complete the assessment. We already have students who come in to complete literacy assessments, benchmark assessments already doing this year. And so 2 points I want to make. Number one, we don't necessarily have to test them in a traditional school environment. So just because we say you have to come in, that necessarily means you have to test them for second grade class. We can create an opportunity for you to come and test at 3 o'clock by yourself. So we can test anytime. And the second thing that we've seen is, in these instances where people have not been coming in to take their assessment, unfortunately, the results have been somewhat less than valid. All right? And we've had a problem with some people helping maybe little Johnny on his second grade benchmark. And now all of a sudden, we don't have a good idea what little Johnny really can do. And I know that's not human nature, but parents want to assist and want to help. And so we just want to ensure that the results are really valid and accurate, so we'll know exactly what kind of support needs to occur. Quite honestly, if there was a way that we could ensure we could administer assessment virtually, and be confident that the results were totally valid, and we didn't have the brother or sister standing over you telling you the answers and these kinds of things, then maybe we'll be a little bit more lenient. But that's exactly why the state is saying that we have to get that grade or pass, students rather come in and take them, because we can't necessarily trust that everything is going to be the kind of testing environment that's necessary for the results to be valid.
One other question, Dr. Avery. Will any special ed kids have an option for virtual? I say I'm a resource kid. I'm not self-contained, but I need a little help in math. I need a little help in ELA. Will I have that virtual option, even though I qualify for resource?
I would think, Mr. Siebels, while they will have the option, and of course it be offered to them just like with any other general ed student, I think that decision will really determine, it will be basically made from an IEP need. I really think that that's a decision that would need to be made based upon a collective effort among the members of the IEP team to determine if that would be the most appropriate instructional delivery option for that special ed student.
And if I may, it's important to see that we're clear. We are excluding special ed students. That'd be hard. All right? What you said, we are excluding any special ed students.
Exactly.
But we're just saying the IEP team used to talk and discuss about how this is their option. All right? And so every student, including special needs students, have access to this virtual option. But we need to talk, and IEP need to say, okay, however you work independently, do you need to maybe have some more one-on-one and some more face-to-face interaction with everybody in there?
David, I know we alluded to the March 26th. I guess that's the date that I don't want to put the cart before the horse, okay? But I want to, I guess, are we targeting homeschool students after this? The ones that they're not with the district, but are we going to target them because maybe some of them are with the virtual, want to get with our school district, and so, I know it'd be great for our, to boost our enrollment, but at the same time, try to talk with them, kind of tell me something.
Well, Mr. Miller,
What y'all thinking about that?
in our publicity plan, we have included, we've tried to turn over every rock we could think of to reach every resident of Fairfield County. And I will tell you that, when I reshared the fact that we were doing a virtual academy on my own personal Facebook page, I got, private messages saying, first, are y'all hiring for teachers? If we have people who are already interested in teaching outside the district for our virtual academy. And number two, we're hopeful, Ms. Wallace has sent communication to our local pastors through Dr. Green's business contacts and pastors and business contacts, and we've done that. We are trying to figure out a way to reach the homeschool. We are also even looking at how we can entice some of the Midford families who are again still part of our district, but of course attending school in Chester. We're trying to figure out a way to reach them. We do have plans to reach them, to at least let them know of this opportunity to see what they would like to return back to Fairfield County for this opportunity. So we have publicized in the Fairfield Post. We are going to be sending out correspondence through Parents Fair, text messages, as Dr. Green alluded to. He has done a recorded message. So we're doing everything possible to get the word out. We've asked staff members who have connections within their own personal churches. We've shared the flyers and communications with them. So we're doing the very best that we can to get the word out about this virtual academy.
Are we reaching across county lines, can we? We can't do that. I was just wondering. Let's see. Go ahead.
Dr. Avery, how would this virtual academy work for students who have chosen band or chorus to be their elective courses? How would the virtual academy work for me if I want to be in the band, or I want to be on the chorus, I want to be on the dance team? And how would virtual work for my situations for those elective courses where you have to be there in order to learn how to participate?
We, with the band classes and the other elective opportunities, we will definitely have to do some creative scheduling and figure out a way to get the kids the opportunity. But again, kids can still take those classes virtually. They can still do it via Zoom. So my daughter's at Winthrop and she takes dance every day virtually. While it may not be the ideal environment, but they still will have the opportunity and exposure to the course. In addition to that, if they have after school practice in a small contained environment, those students, then parents will have an opportunity to bring them after school if need be, or during the course of the school day to the school to be able to take that band class with our band teacher or to participate in chorus and things of that nature. So we don't want, when kids have an opportunity to be a part of this virtual academy, we want them to still have access to the art that they may not have access at their home school, like dance or Spanish, if it's not offered at their current home school. This virtual opportunity will give them an opportunity to have exposure to take other arts that we now have available throughout our district, but they may not be available at their respective locations.
Mr. Chair, if I can just follow that up, Mr. Seaver, that's going on right now today. And so that has been a benefit of this virtual experience. We have students who are taking dance and band and chorus and these things virtually now. And so I can tell you, I visited Mr. Harrell's class earlier this year, who's a dance teacher at Fairfield Middle School. And he had a number of students who were in his class who were in person, and then he had a number of students who were virtual. And everybody would participate. And so right now today, even this year, we have students that are leveraging our elective courses virtually. Now, obviously, you was in another like being in the dance room, and if parents want to make those kinds of arrangements, then obviously we would be willing to do so, but it's not necessarily required. So those students still have access to band and dance and orchestra and all these other courses that we have right now. And I think that's what young people have enjoyed this year, is that we've had kids who've been virtual, who played soccer, played football, and know the band and wrestle, and
and unporous, they have really enjoyed having the flexibility of working, virtual environment, still participating in all these activities as well. So, we're very confident that we can do what we're doing right now. Reverend Jackson,
You said that you were reaching out to the students, that were in the zone in the Chester Fairfield area. And the virtual may be appealing to them, but, are we going to make sure that they understand that if they want to participate in the virtual program, that they have to come back to Fairfield and be a Fairfield student?
Most definitely. Any student that is currently not a student in Fairfield County School District, before they can be enrolled in the virtual academy, they have to be enrolled as a Fairfield County School District student. And so again, Medford students are currently attending Chester, so if they're let to come back, they will have to register with Ms. Bush Belton to become a student in our school district, and then they will have an opportunity to apply for the virtual academy.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. This time, Operations Department.
Good evening.
Good evening.
In your board packets this evening, the first item is the finance report for board review from the month of February. And last month when I gave the report, I mentioned that I was projecting our local tax revenues would be approximately $1 million less than what we received last year. And just for comparison's sake, the local revenues, tax revenues that we have for February are about $400,000 less than February of last year at this time. So that's just a kind of an extra confirmation that we're headed for projected lower tax revenues for the year as a whole. But that's all I have, unless you have any just questions on the finance report.
Thank you, sir.
Sure. The second item in the board packet is the budget timeline, which just outlines our budget hearings for our budget process for next year. Typically, we're required to have 3 budget readings, and we generally do our budget readings during our regular board meetings. So the first one is scheduled for April 20th, the second reading for May the 11th, and on May 25th, it's not a regular board meeting, it's just a public hearing in which we give the public a chance to just get an outline, an overview of the budget. And then the third and final budget reading would be on June the 8th. And that's just submitted for board information. Any questions? That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Robert. You keep us abreast.
Yes, sir.
This time, HR.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Under Human Resources, item 1, Superintendent recommends the board approve certified staff members for academic year 2021-22. This is presented to you in Exhibit 1.
Chair, we have a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion, we accept the superintendent recommendation to approve certified staff members for academic year 2021-22, Exhibit 1.
Chair, I second. Motion by Ms. Harris, second by Reverend Jackson. HR 21-22 year. All in favor, so by the raising of the right hand.
I have 6.
Item 2, in Exhibit 2, the superintendent recommends the board approve certified professional administrators for academic year 2021-22.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion, we accept the superintendent recommendation to approve certified professional administrators for the academic year 2021-22, exhibit 2.
Second for the motion.
Motion by Ms. Harris, second by Dr. Harris. Administrators for the 21-22 school year. All in favor, show by the raising of the right hand. That is 6.
Thank you.
Thank you. Again. Okay. Now, this time we have, board chair. I just wanted to, say this, that, on, our board, state board meeting this, a few weeks ago, was very interesting. What I wanted to talk about, they had a general session. And, but they had this one man, they had him sit for 15 minutes or 10 minutes. And he took the show, Ms. Grimm, as always, and I was our superintendent, Dr. Grimm. He put it out, did he not? He put it out. And I got to give credit. I mean, the guy that came behind him, when he was sitting right beside him, boy, I said, wow, well, you got to come behind Dr. Green. But he talked about, you know, they wanted to take over school boards. You know, we the only one that they wanted to literally take over. Okay, but, you know, all the different county, city, all these different, nobody was talking about that, even the senator, you know. So he just made it plain as day, you know. If you want to pick on the school board, then let's pick on everybody. Let's open it up for everybody. And did a great job. And I just want to commend him on that. Anybody else got any want to say anything about? I know Ms. Harris was nominated to be vice president of
The black school
Black-
board, black school board member, black.
Clap your hands for Ms. Harris. Outstanding.
Now, I want to thank y'all, most of y'all, I think, joined the Black Caucus down there, so, good thing. But yeah, I agree with you on Dr. Green. You saw a man that's passionate about what he do, you know, and it just brought tears to your eyes, because your superintendent up there, you know, he really tells it like it is, that everybody else should be not scared to say, and he said it. And I'm glad I went live, because his wife was like, wait, live, and I would be able to see. But most people that saw it, they really was impressed. I said, well, one thing about Dr. Green, now he was scared to speak up now. Look, they might not like what he said, but he ain't scared, so he did. He had people clapping. People were really impressed, and I mean, they kept sending me, can you share me the video? He emailed us to me. They wanted to share it with everybody. So yeah, Dr. Green, you really laid it out, and you really showed people, you know, your passion that you have for the school district. So we commend you for that. So we thank you and appreciate everything you do.
Anybody else?
Chairman, I would just like to acknowledge the fact that our district honors choir was spotlighted at the conference, and they did an excellent job. So hats off to Ms. Graham and to the members of the honors choir.
Let's clap our hands. Motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Motion is from Harris, second by Reverend Jackson. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I know Mr. Miller was probably gonna mention this, but let me just go ahead and say that brother, Mr. Davis, is not here today, but he's experiencing some health challenges. I am happy to report that he is doing a whole lot better. I spoke to him yesterday. He was in very good spirits and ready to come back to the school board meeting and go back to work. I said, man, just hold your horse. Dress yourself right now. But he is doing good. He appreciates everyone in the Fairfield family who has kept him in their thoughts and prayers, and he's looking forward to being back with us very, very soon. Thank you.
Mr. Davis, and, kind of shocking, I'll tell you. You can be young, you can be old, no matter. Sickness come and get all of us. So that's, I hope I'm getting in trouble, but let's stay prayed up. That's right. I'm gonna get in trouble, man. I ain't standing with what it was,
Yeah.
the motion was made by Ms. Harris, second by Reverend Jackson. All in favor of the motion, go ahead and raise your right hand. We can have a 6-0. Meeting is adjourned.
Listen, and it would have been going right.
Right. I would have thought about it like that.